Hi, I'm Mike, and in this short video series, I'll be going behind the scenes of What's Missing, the latest show from Casefile Presents, which I co-produced. What's Missing is a brand new 10-part series that explores the wide-reaching, devastating impacts that occur when someone disappears without a trace. Hosted by a founder and CEO of Missing Persons Advocacy Network, or MPAN in short, the series features candid interviews with family members and loved ones of missing Australians. And that's going beyond the headlines to provide that deep insight into their searches and struggles. What's Missing is available now on your podcasting app, so search for it and subscribe. Hi, I'm Mike, producer of Casefile True Crime and Casefile Presents shows. On this channel, I'm releasing videos on audio production, podcasting, and what's like to be a podcast producer. So if you enjoy the content, hit subscribe and notification buttons. The way that my templates are set up is that I have mixing plugins on each track, as well as mastering suite running at all times. Now, this allows me for efficiency when working on podcasts. It means that I can hear somewhat mixed and mastered, although very basic audio during editing, scoring, as well as pre-mixing. And when I actually get to the mixing stage, most of the job is already done. Now, of course, my mixing and mastering plugins from iZotope, which is Neutron and Ozone, are stripped to the basics. That is just EQ, compression, and limiting. That gives me an overall picture, but it's when I get to the mixing stage that I start tweaking the plugins and the settings to the actual audio. For What's Missing podcast, I had a simple setup with 4 mono narration tracks, 1 stereo track for the score, then stereo bass with the reverb on, stereo mixing bass, and a master track. Now, why 4 narration tracks? I wanted the story of the episode sound a little bit different than the interview. So I had Loren's story, guest story, Loren interview, guest interview tracks set up in a template. The difference was that the tracks for the story were sent to the reverb bus, making it a little bit smoother and pop out. Now, there was a little bit tweaking in Neutron mixing plugins, but mostly it was just about adding the reverb. The tracks with the interviews had no reverb at all, making it a little bit closer and more intimate. All these dialogue tracks were sent to a stereo mix bus where I had a little bit more EQ, compression, as well as saturation to glue it all together. Then the stereo audio track with the score was also sent through that mix bus. And then on the master track, I had Ozone 9 from iZotope with EQ, compression, and limiting set to minus 16 dB LUFS. And I also had some other modules switched on as well, such as Imager, Exciter, and so on. My mixing process is an extension of what I've been doing earlier with the score. And because the dialogue was evened out with leveler and there's also limiting and compression going on, I don't really need to run an automation on it. If there's a problematic clip, I fix it with a clip gain. Now, I tweak music automation a little bit, but really I focus on making all the elements sound great together. I ran the first pass on my AKG K712 Pro headphones. That's the first mix. For the second pass, I use cheap earbud headphones, and I have several pairs that I switch throughout. Now, this gives me an idea how the episode will sound on that consumer headphones. And that's the 2 mixing stages that I always do. My mastering process, it's not really mastering because everything's working in tandem all at once. That's more of a QC process, so quality control. And I do final tweaks here and there. I do that final pass on my AKG headphones once again, but this time I have a codec preview switched on Ozone 9 plugin. Now this is switched to MP3 either 192 or 128 kilobits per second, and that allows me to hear how the exported audio will sound with the lossy compression. Once I've listened to the episode for the last time, I select everything and bounce it down to a stereo track. For What's Missing podcast, I export it as MP3 with 128 kilobits per second. I reckon it was good enough quality and the size for this podcast. I've saved the episodes and then I send the final masters to the team. In the last video of this series, I'll be talking about releasing what's missing as well as my lessons from this project. But in the meantime, subscribe to the podcast. That's it for today. I'm Mike from Mike Migas Production. If you enjoyed this video, if you want to learn more about podcasting, check out the rest of my channel as well as my website, mikemigas.com. For now, share, like, subscribe, and I'll see you later.